So the subject of today's presentation is 6 inbox secrets. There are in fact 10 inbox secrets, but just for a time perspective, we've focused on 6 of these secrets. So where have these secrets come from, I hear you ask? A few years ago, we produced a white paper called 10 Inbox Secrets. And this basically reviewed what eye tracking reveals about designing more effective emails. So for those that don't know, eye tracking is a way in which you can eye track a person's eye movements. So we use that internally. We have our own eye tracking software, and that enables us to eye track how people interact with, or any marketing material in actual fact. We've done it with direct mail, we've done it with TV, but we've also eye tracked people's eye movements with email marketing. And only last year, actually, we eye tracked how people interact with Google. So there is a white paper that is available on the website, and that basically details 10 secrets that we discovered from a rather in-depth piece of analysis and research. But also, in addition to that, we've also learnt, as we've kind of gone along with our email marketing. We've been doing email marketing for the best part of 15 years for a whole host of different clients, most of which, well, some of which are on the screen at the moment. As I mentioned, we do all of the email marketing for the Exo Noble Group, Dulux, Dulux Trade, Dulux Retail, and Dulux Decorator Centre. We did the email marketing for Manchester City Football Club for 5 years or more. We do email marketing for Bupa, Royal London, Guard, Swinton Insurance. So we know what we're talking about. We do a lot of email marketing, and a lot of the things that we learned from the white paper, we have implemented with live case studies, with live clients, and we've seen the rewards and the results come through. So without further ado, I'm going to take the first 3 secrets, and then Betty will take the final 3. So the first secret is digital signposting. And ultimately, this is all about navigation. What we find with pretty much every single one of our clients, good navigation can generally account for over 1/3 of the overall clicks from the email, which, by definition, what we also find is a click on a navigation or a piece of navigation can often be a more purposeful click. So what we often find is the conversion rate on a click via navigation will often be a better conversion rate than maybe just another piece of value-added content or maybe a particular product. Navigation clicks are generally more purposeful. And what we find, we do a lot of testing within the agency. It's very rare for us to send an email out whereby we're not testing something. Emails are a fantastic tool for testing, whereas there's relatively significant investment needed for testing direct mail packs, etc. With email marketing, the costs are much less significant. It's quite simple to do an A/B test, testing different pieces of navigation, and that's something that we do an awful lot of within the agency. And we've made significant improvements to click-through rates by doing exactly that. So a couple of live examples. This was the newsletter that we produced for Man City Football Club. And as you can see here, there are kind of 2 pieces of navigation. And what I'm going to do during the presentation is kind of make some points using live case studies. So with this example here, unless you're a Man City fan, you won't necessarily realise this, but the email navigation that we use on Man City Football Club's emails, they didn't necessarily mirror the navigation that existed on the website. That's often a trap people fall into. People feel as though they need to mirror the website's navigation. You don't. The website is doing a very different, it's tackling a very different set of business criteria than what an email is trying to achieve. So you don't need to mirror the navigation. What we often do is, again, through analysis, we look at how engaging the navigation has been with our customers. So for argument's sake, if we discover that shop, in the example of Man City, isn't generating revenue or indeed clicks, we may then change shop and replace it with something else, and ultimately test the navigation and what links we should include in that navigation until we find the right mix. In addition to that, also what we did with the blueprint, which is Manchester City's newsletter, what we do with quite a lot of our clients, in actual fact, when it comes to their newsletters, is actually also introduce this secondary piece of navigation, which in this case we've kind of referred to as our latest stories. And what we discovered here was, despite there not being any sort of graphical elements, any supporting imagery, that little bar on the left-hand side, latest stories, that generated upwards of 20% of the overarching clicks through to the website. So, and the other great thing about it is you've basically got, what, 5 clicks there, 5 different content pieces that you're adding into the mix without having to give up too much space of your email. So it's a bit of a myth that you need imagery to support the text in which to generate good click-through rates. That's not necessarily the case. This is an example. Habitat aren't one of our clients, Dulux are. But one of the things that we always like to do is ensure that the navigation stands out. You know, by definition, I've just said navigation can be an incredibly important part of the email's makeup. So therefore, you need to ensure that the email navigation is clearly seen, clearly visible. And sometimes using colors and supporting graphics can actually help support it. Back in the day when we used to do a lot of email marketing for Swinton Insurance, we had the top navigation, which was text, but then we also had secondary navigation down the side that was more graphical elements. So for car, at the top it would read car. Down the side there'd be a little graphic, a little icon detailing car. Something that we often do with a number of our e-commerce clients, you know, we would kind of make a call with the client as to what was the most important piece of navigation. Quite often it's something along the lines of offers or sale. We would put that in red because we know that draws the eye, and quite often that can then generate a high click-through rate. Something that we also do, and in this live example with Dulux here, we often have secondary navigation throughout the email. So in this example here, which is our Let's Colour newsletter, you know, you have your image, you have some introductory text, and then underneath that you have some secondary navigation. So you're giving people constant reasons why they want to or might want to engage with your emails. Again, very easily can be tested. And the final one on this subject of digital signposting navigation, this is M&M Direct, who, if you're not familiar with these guys, they are fantastic digital email marketeers. They really do send out a very high frequency of email, but their emails are very good. Strategically, they're great, and also from creatively, they're also very powerful. So this is an email that I received relatively recently. And the point I want to make here is, on the left-hand side of the screen, you have what your preview might look like. So this is with my images turned off. But this is very important because despite the images being turned off, because the navigation has been built using HTML rather than imagery, you can still see, you still have something that you can engage with as a customer. So I could still click through on men's, women's, or kids, or indeed clearance without images being turned on. So that is certainly something that we would recommend to all of our clients do, or indeed you guys who don't happen to be clients. Always ensure that your navigation is HTML. So on the left-hand side, it's HTML, and as you can see on the right-hand side, that's with images turned on. Okay. Obviously, I'll take any questions on navigation at the end of the presentation. Okay, so first impressions count. This is our secret 2, our second secret. So, you know, I think we're all probably familiar. We're all busy people. We don't have a lot of time necessarily to engage with lots and lots of marketing messages, marketing communications. An email is no different. You know, we read emails one screen at a time, whether or not that's on desktop or it's on a mobile phone. So you need to make sure that every screen counts. You need to pack that screen with as many messages as you possibly can, or reasons to interact with the email, whether or not that's continuing to read, continuing to scroll, but you need to have that immediate impact. So yeah, the opening screen, extremely influential in how the overarching email performs. And what we find is, you know, obviously there are generally two types of emails. You have your blanket emails, you know, your newsletters that go out to the whole base, your cross-sell emails that may go out to the whole base. Then you have your other type of emails that may be automated that are going out to much smaller defined segments. But, you know, if I'm sending emails out to, you know, a fashion retailer, for argument's sake, you know, I don't know exactly what that person might be in the market for at any one time. So, you know, what I'm wanting to do is give that person multiple reasons to want to engage with the email. Because, you know, we find by doing that is you're seeing people engage and click through to the website multiple times. So, you know, that's all going to be very good for the overarching result of that email. So give people reasons to click. A couple of examples here. This is a holiday company. And again, the point I wanted to make here is, you know, with images turned off, you know, images need to be downloaded. So again, on the left-hand side is this particular company having their images turned off, but I can still engage with this email without having to do something, without having to download my images. You know, I can read some text, I can sort of understand, I can see the navigation, and I can also start getting a picture as to what the content's going to be, you know, if I was to download the images. Then on the right-hand side, you know, you've got a big image there, you know, an inspirational image. This is obviously about getting me to book a holiday on the coast in this particular occasion. So this is a big, you know, visually attractive image, inspirational image, aspiring image, to hopefully either get me to click right through to view the collection, you know, single-minded call to action, or indeed to continue to scroll through the email. This is another great first example, first impressions count example. You know, what we're trying to do here with Moonpig, not one of our clients, but what they're trying to do here is create a clear message on the opening screen so the user knows exactly what this email is going to be about. You know, you're not in any shape or form unsure about what the email is going to be about. Straight away, the offer ends today. You know, you get 20% off large cards. So, you know, you're not having to ask the email recipient to do anything, or I'll have to think particularly hard. I know what that email's about. And again, this is a good example for Buildbase. Buildbase are one of our clients, or they have been in the past. This is one of our emails. Again, packed solid with ways in which to click through to the website. And what we're doing here is we're combining graphics, we're combining it with text and HTML and imagery to grab the attention of the email recipient. As I said, you know, first impressions really do count, so you really do need to make that opening screen as powerful and also as concise as possible. You don't want it to be open to interpretation. You want to ensure that person knows what they should be doing with that email via that first screen. The third secret is clickability. And what do I mean by clickability? Well, again, I made reference to this point earlier, we're all busy people. People don't engage with, you know, despite the fact that your email marketing program may take a lot of time to produce, you know, the cold light of day is people don't interact that long with your emails. You don't have long to convince that person to click through to the website. You know, with a newsletter, again, we've done this piece analysis in the past, you know, with a newsletter, you may get around 60 seconds of someone's attention if you're lucky. You know, with a digital postcard, you know, you may get a maximum of 10 seconds of people interacting or engaging with it before you potentially lose them. So you need to give people really clear, concise calls to action to enhance the possibility of people clicking through to your website. You know, for those we persuade to open the email, the decision to not click or indeed to click is literally made in milliseconds. So, you know, you need to do every single thing you can do to ensure that you get a greater percentage of people clicking, you know, through to your website, or doing whatever you want them to do, whether it's clicking to download, clicking to buy a product, or clicking for more information. And we work very hard with our clients to try to find ways in which to improve the clickability of our emails. And that's through imagery testing, it's through navigation testing, it's through, you know, copy. You know, copy can be a great way in which to drive people through to the website. So there's lots of different ways in which you could test different things in which to enhance the clickability of your emails. This is an email from Dulux Decorator Centre. I believe we have some clients from Dulux Decorator Centre on the call today, so I hope they don't mind me using this as an example, but I think it's a great example of great clickability. So one of the things that we've learned over the years is, you know, if you do happen to have some opening text as part of your email format, as we do with DDC, so there's basically a piece of text there, introductory text, outlining, you know, the core proposition of the email. But what we do with DDC and most of our clients is we incorporate HTML links as part of that opening piece of text. And what we see is, you know, a high number of people will click through on those HTML links through to the website. So we recommend highly incorporating HTML links into your copy. Again, this is something that we've discovered over the years. Very little point in having the calls to action, you know, a distance away from the product. You want to ensure that, or key messages, you want to have the calls to action in close proximity to the subject of the email or the product or the core message. You want someone to have a positive feeling about that product or the key message. You then want them to click through to the website to find out more, or to book, or to buy that product. But also, one thing that we do a lot of testing about, and those that have attended Stuart Clark's virtual midweek masterclass on copywriting for email, he spoke a lot more eloquently than I can on the subject. He talks about the value of mixing up calls to action. Don't just have buy now, buy now, buy now, buy now. People become blind to that. And again, we've proved that time and time again with our clients through call to action testing. But mix it up a little bit, mix it up, potentially find out more info, or talk in the third person. There's lots of different ways in which you can mix up your calls to action. At the end of the presentation, I do have a link to Stuart's deck with regards to exactly that in more detail. But as I say, mix up your calls to action. Oh, some animation that I forgot about. Okay. And here's some other ones here as well. Quite often I see with clients and prospects, if social is a big part of your business, or it's an important part of your business, do more with it. Quite often at the bottom of an email, I'll ultimately see just your Facebook symbol, your LinkedIn symbol, or your Instagram signal. You're not giving symbols, sort of say. You're not giving people a reason to click through. So, if you're just going to do that, don't bother. There's no point. Just by doing that, you're not generating any click-throughs to your social presence, or very, very small amounts of click-throughs. If you want to incorporate social messaging into your emails, fine, brilliant. It's a great idea, but do it well. Give people a reason why they should be clicking through to your social networks. For this example from Paperchase here, let's be social. Follow us online to see the latest trends and news. So they're giving me a reason as to why I might want to engage with them on the social networks. It's because I'm going to get to see the latest trends and the latest news. Don't just put the symbols at the bottom of the email. Completely pointless. Okay, so that brings me on to the switch over. So wish me luck as we do this. Over to you, Betty.
Can you see my screen?
You can. Yeah, just want to put it on presentation mode.
Yes. Ah, yeah, it's going to happen. There we go. So secret 4 is basically all around added value content. So as Steve mentioned, there is another virtual masterclass that delves into this a little bit deeper, but I'm just basically going to pull out why it's really important and what sort of emails should feature content, because I'll show you an example in a second, but it's not always just newsletters that need content. It's also worth considering in your re-engagement pieces, etc., to have content that will be useful for the customer. So obviously, good content drives clicks, and as long as that content is what your customer wants to see, it will keep them engaged, and obviously will keep them opening the emails and clicking on the emails. Obviously, we have clients, so Juliet's Decorator Centre, for example, where they do have e-commerce. So a lot of what we do is sales messages, but we do try and also incorporate added value content that's actually going to help the decorator, because obviously they're getting emails from other competitors that are driving the sales messages. So we want to stand out and be the company that is helping them rather than just trying to drive sales. And then something we always talk about at Red Sea is a rich and varied inbox. So we don't want to be just sending them the same email every month, just a newsletter. It's all about sort of varying up what they can expect from you. And therefore you're more likely to, again, keep having those opens and clicks. So this is the example that I was talking about. So this is one of our clients. It's not my client, it's on another team. But I thought it was a great example because this is actually a renewal email. So Police Mutual do insurance. So this is a renewal email basically reminding the customer that their insurance is up for renewal. But instead of just doing a simple email just saying, you need to renew your insurance, they've looked at the content that's available on the website and how that can help the customer understand why they should choose Police Mutual instead of somebody else. So for example, this can I get cover for items I take outside of the home? That's obviously a key selling message for Police Mutual, the fact that they cover that. So why not put that in there? Because it's going to increase the likelihood that someone's going to renew with you. And then we also have a great little, hope it works. No, the animation's not working, but these calendar icons here, they flash depending on when the customer's renewal dates are. So again, it's just that added sort of piece there that makes somebody feel like this is especially for them and is about helping them. And then the second example that we've got is it's a really simple, straightforward email. Obviously, there's not a lot to it. It's what we would sort of class as a postcard email from George Home. And obviously it's very timely. I think I got this in April, and they were obviously aware of everybody starting to work from home and the fact that for George Home, what they want to do is sell sort of home office products. So what they've done is created a lovely little animation just to help you imagine the products that they've got in sale, sort of how it would work in your desk space. So a couple of things here, obviously animation is great if you've got an email service provider that sort of supports it. Animation is something that we try and push as much as possible to sort of keep the emails varied. It works really well on mobile, which a lot of our customers are opening their emails on. And obviously, as I said, it's very relevant and timely. So April, everyone was sort of in the same position, working from home. So if this lands in your inbox and you're like, oh yeah, I actually need to sort of start coming to deal with the fact that I'm going to be working from home and that I should sort of make it my own space. And then obviously the normal George Home emails are quite long, and they just sort of have products and the sale prices. So having something that's just sort of animated and short and sort of helps you picture it, I thought was really great. And then the next point that we go into is something that I think is increasingly important for most customer bases. I won't say all, because obviously it depends what you all sort of cover, but we find that, for example, with Dulux Retail, it's about a 70% customer base that are opening on their mobile. And I think a lot of what was done originally when email obviously started getting bigger and bigger was sort of designing for desktop, and the impression that most people are opening their emails on the desktop. But obviously now more and more people are on the go, and more people are opening when they're in their sort of phone, when they're traveling, for example. Or for myself, I always check it. First thing that I do is check my emails when I wake up, which is sad but true. But it's all about making sure that your design is mobile first rather than desktop first. So unfortunately, a lot of what people do is design for desktop, and then they'll shrink the email to fit that sort of size. However, that sometimes means that text doesn't quite flow like it should. It can mean that images are a little bit too small, and can sometimes, in bad cases, end up in an overlap from images to text. So what we always do in Build is stack rather than shrink, which just allows for the customer journey to be a little bit smoother. So got a couple of examples here. And these are both emails that we created at Red Sea. So the first one is the cross-sell email that we used to do for Swinton Insurance. And this is sent on a monthly basis. It goes out to existing and non-existing customers, basically just driving the product that they don't have to them. So it was always a price-led message. And you'll notice here that we've got phone numbers, and also the phone numbers here. And I'll let you see how the sort of desktop email worked. So obviously looks really nice on desktop, flows really nicely. And then we've got sort of a final call to action here that you can see call us on the number. Whereas on mobile, what we've done is tweaked the header so that this was a call to in the HTML, so that you just click it and it rings the number. And then with the design, we've used the sort of arrow here on mobile to drive them down. And then for the final call to action that you'll see at the bottom, instead of having the text, we had a button, again, that it was obvious that they could click just to call. So it stood out really prominently so that people were sort of knowing what to do to get a quote from Swinton. So I thought they were both really nice examples of just how you can change the design ever so slightly on mobile, just to make it a lot easier for a customer. And then we've got a similar Booper example. So here you'll see in the desktop that we've got a really nice hands image here, just to sort of represent what the webinar was about. And the flow of the desktop version is fairly similar. We've got an arrow again to sort of drive people down to the webinar registration. And then on the mobile version, we lost the image so that it wasn't too long. And then again, use the arrow to drive people down. So it's just simple changes, but it's really important just to consider that audience change, and that across every sector we are seeing that increase in mobile users. So they're really important to sort of consider nowadays. And then the final secret that we have is, Steve sort of touched upon it slightly already, but the importance of testing new techniques. So we obviously try as much as possible to include elements such as animated GIFs, image carousels, videos where possible, countdowns for sale messages, which are all really great, and most email service providers can manage them, especially if you're doing the HTML yourself. But it is important to make sure that you're not testing two things at once. So, for example, I think it's next Monday, we're launching a really exciting new initiative for Dulux Academy, and we're doing a teaser email tomorrow, sort of running two different design tests. So one's a static image and one's a GIF image, just because they don't use a lot of GIFs. So we're just wanting to see what performs best. But then when we were looking at the subject lines, the client wanted to test the subject lines, but when you're testing a design, you want the results to be sort of as final as possible. So if you're testing a subject line and a subject line works way better than the other, then it can just mean that that might then have an effect on your design test. So it's really important, if you can, just to sort of run one thing at a time, so that you can then look at the results and be sort of definitive in what's driven that increase in clicks. So we've got another example here from Dulux Decorator Centre, which I think wasn't last Black Friday, but the Black Friday before. And we used a couple of things here. So obviously we've got the GIF that was scrolling across, just to grab the user's attention. And then what would happen if the GIF doesn't work is basically that they would just get a static image of how it looks when that GIF finishes playing. So like how it is now. And then another thing that we also did, which we tend to do on Dulux Decorator Centre, do a cash event every 2 months. So we sort of do a countdown, which seems to work really well. And it's just a nice tactic to, if you're doing sort of 3 emails in a sales message, to have that countdown on like the last email. So it's like, oh, you've only got 5 hours left to sort of get this offer. So this worked really, really well. And we went ahead and did another GIF on the Black Friday that we did last year. And then this is an example of, we work really closely with the Dulux retail team, and obviously they've got gorgeous imagery, and they've often got lots of lovely sort of ambassador content when they do the colour of the year. So this was, again, I think this is colour of the year 2019, which was spiced honey, and fern cotton was the colour of the year ambassador. That's wordy. So what we decided to do, because we had quite a lot of content that we wanted to get across, was feature a header carousel, which always worked really well. What we tend to do with those is have 3 different pieces of content within the header, so that we can basically show the customer what's going to be further down the email. It didn't work. One sec. It's just a slow one. There we go. So we had the colour of the year ambassador. We had how to sort of pair your sofa with grey, and then for the other content further down the newsletter, what we decided to do was a carousel to show more imagery. So that's just a couple of different tactics that you can do. So if you know that carousels work, for example, if you've done a test where you do just static versus a carousel, and you find that carousels work really well at driving those clicks, then you can do carousels in various different places. And again, what would happen here if the carousel isn't supported, which sometimes it isn't on desktop clients, you know, like Outlook 2017 just still won't take carousels. They'll just get the static image. So it's not like they're sort of going to have a bad customer journey if that carousel isn't loud. So they're the top sort of main 6 secrets. And then just sort of thought I'd run through the 10 that are within the white paper, which Steve will sort of explain how you can get your hands on that. So obviously first impressions count is all about making sure that your opening screen is telling the customer what they need to do and what the main point of the email is, so that when they open that email, they aren't just jumping straight back out of it. And obviously email anatomy matters. So that's all about sort of making sure that your design structure is sort of there and ready. It's really important, if you can, to sort of get a template designed. I know obviously some companies don't have the time basically to, you know, design every single email that's going out, which is fine, but just making sure that that sort of key anatomy is there before you start sending out the emails is sort of best practice. And then digital signposting is sort of what Steve talked about in terms of how to sort of grab that user's attention and how to make sure that when they're browsing, they actually do something with the email. And then obviously clickability is all about getting the clicks and how important call to actions are, which again, as Steve mentioned, we have got the PowerPoint from Stuart. And then content is king is all about added value content, which I went through. And then words paint 1,000 pictures, which is 100% true. I think as much as nice imagery sort of does the job and sort of helps to sell in something, if you're not explaining it and you're not driving those clicks with your copy, then it's not going to do much. And then digital salesmanship is also all about sort of making sure that your product's clear. So this is, for example, a sales email that you do, making sure that they know what the product is, so that you've got the product image, text, and also if the price is a sort of key thing, making sure that that's there as well. And then the graphic assets are all about sort of how you can use graphics and icons and design sort of features to make sure that your clicks are being driven. And then no stone unturned is all about, this sort of comes back to making sure that you're continuing to test. For all of AXO, Noble and Swinton and Buildbase, it's all about sort of testing and making sure that if you've done something, it's working, but you can see that those sort of clicks are dropping off. Don't just sort of think, oh, well, we've already tested it, so that's it. Just going back over and making sure that you're exploiting every opportunity that's there to drive clicks and opens. And then again, the peripheral vision leads back to sort of what Steve was mentioning about the eye tracking. So understanding how your customer is going to basically read the email and what they're going to do with each area of the email. So they're top 10 inbox secrets. Obviously, we've gone through our sort of key 6, but if there's any sort of questions or anything, myself and Steve will obviously be happy to help.
I just thought I'd make you very briefly aware of some of the resources that we have available via the website. We've made reference to a couple of these already. Obviously, the presentation was very much centered around our 10 inbox secrets. That is available on the website via our resources white paper section. Recently launched our most recent email wow book, which is a collection of emails that have made our staff stand back and say wow. Some great examples of email marketing there, from B2B, from B2C, from various different sectors. They may be great examples of email creative, or maybe just a really clever piece of segmentation. Again, I would advise you download that. And then, you know, Stuart's white paper on copywriting for email is a great read. Gives great, some really interesting thoughts around how to improve open rates through subject matter testing, and also ways in which to improve clickability through both, you know, engaging copy and also call to actions. So again, you know, I would recommend you download those as well. I think that draws a conclusion. It does indeed. Get the screen off, Betty. Smashing. Okay, so let me have a look if there are any questions. Already, fantastic. A question from Vicky, I think that is. With navigation, if you have different customer groupings, should the navigation change in order to be relevant to them, or should it stay the same for consistency? I 100% feel as though it should change. If you are segmenting your base and you're having good performance based on those segmentation techniques, you absolutely should be. Just as though you would, you know, if you're sending emails to different customer groups, different imagery, different products, etc., navigation should change as well. You know, if I'm in the, you know, if I'm an e-commerce fashion retailer, John Lewis, say for example, I know my customer is a male. You know, maybe I concentrate on male orientated navigation. You know, men's trousers, men's shoes, and then don't include anything relating to women's fashion, for argument's sake. But yeah, absolutely, don't feel as though you can't play around with the navigation. Test it, and test it. Okay, just in case any more further questions come through, I will just quickly summarise what's left of the Midweek Masterclass agenda. Next week, as I mentioned, we have Christopher Morey, one of our account directors, talking around the process in which you should be looking to develop SEO content. Session that Chris delivered at a previous search masterclass in Chester, which was very well received. So if you have an interest in organic rankings, I recommend that session. Takes place next Wednesday, and you can reserve your seats, your virtual seats via our website. And then finally, the last session the following week will be Adrian Rowe, our chairman, and Andy Craig, our search specialist, talking about a brand new session on the subject of Google Shopping. So again, you'd be more than welcome to join that session also. As I mentioned, the session has been recorded, so I will be putting on our YouTube channel and sending the link through later on today. And like always, I'll be doing a little bit of stuff on LinkedIn. If you do have time and you could engage with that LinkedIn post, I'm grateful. Just double checking, no further questions. Oh, bear with me. I do have a question. I have a question from Bev, one of our serial questioners. Bev, how long should an email be? What is considered too much or too little? Difficult question to answer, I'll be perfectly honest. The way in which we approach this subject is we mix it up, as Betty referred to it earlier on today. We very much believe in a rich and varied inbox. So, you know, we wouldn't recommend every single email that you send out should be a short, snappy email. At the same time, we wouldn't necessarily recommend, you know, a really, really long email. We recommend, and do so with all of our clients, a mixture. So some emails might be really single-minded, like a postcard, digital postcard email, which can perform exceptionally well and do. But at the same time, I wouldn't recommend just sending those out time and time again. You know, newsletters tend to be a longer type of email with more content within that email template. Yeah, value-added content, product information, competitions, and they tend to be longer. I hope that's your question. I don't think there's necessarily a right or wrong answer. We test that, test the order of the content as well to see if that can have a positive impact on clickability. I think any further questions? I hope that answers your question, Bev. In case, I will draw a close to today's virtual Midweek Masterclass. So thank you very much, Betty, for today's presentation.
Thank you.
So without further ado, thanks guys, and I hope to see you next week.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.